Now, breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Vice President Kamala Harris is headed to North Carolina just 1 week after Tropical Storm Debbie forced her to postpone her trip. We are just moments away from live team coverage of her visit.
Plus, an inmate who escaped a medical facility in Hillsborough is finally back in custody after a 3-day manhunt, where he was found and who now faces charges in connection with this case.
And I'm tracking a cold front that arrives over the weekend. It brings the potential for some severe thunderstorms. And how long we'll have dangerous rip currents along the North Carolina coast coming up.
Within the hour, Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to arrive at RDU. It's her first appearance in North Carolina since she became the Democratic nominee. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Renee Chu.
I'm Chris Levengood in for Jeff Hogan. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have live team coverage over the next hour, including expectations from supporters, GOP comments, and how this visit could affect traffic.
We begin with WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie live at RDU with what we're expecting to hear from Harris this afternoon. Laura.
I'm going to get out of the way so you can see the view from photojournalist Richard Adkins, my fellow members of the press corps, just waiting. This is what a lot of presidential visits are like, or vice presidential campaign visits. You stand around and wait a lot. But anyway, so today we're expecting to hear Vice President Harris talk about the rising cost of groceries and housing. Our WRAL poll showed us that the economy is the top #1 issue for voters in North Carolina, and both the Harris and Trump campaigns are definitely focusing on that theme. She'll unveil some proposals today for a federal law to ban corporate price gouging and a push to build new housing. She's also supposed to propose some new middle-class tax breaks, including bringing back the child tax credit that helped families during the pandemic and an even larger credit for families with infants. Yesterday in Maryland, Harris made her first joint appearance with President Joe Biden on the campaign trail. They were touting a deal that was reached by the Biden administration and drug companies to slash the price of 10 commonly used drugs.
For years, Big Pharma blocked Medicare from negotiating lower drug prices. As a consequence, they're able to maintain the exorbitant price increases and the profits are uncalled for. Look, but this time we finally beat Big Pharma.
We also heard today from GOP, RNC National Chairman Michael Whatley. He used to be the state chair. He came to town to talk about how they think that that the idea of limiting price gouging is misguided and is not going to be a silver bullet for inflation. After all, we'll have much more, of course, from that side as well as from Vice President Harris coming up for you after her rally. Back to you.
And happening now in the WRAL Traffic Center, the Vice President will be arriving in the next 45 minutes or so. She'll be landing right here at RDU International. And in preparation for her visit, you can expect some road closures and delays. Now, some of the roads that could be affected include I-540, Six Forks Road, Falls of Noose Road. Let's take a live look at our sensors this noon hour. And right now, there's a huge traffic crash on I-40 westbound, and you can see the huge delays it's causing. Also, there's a crash on I-540 as well in those westbound lanes, causing some more delays. Stay with us as we let you know how the Vice President's visit could affect your noonday commute.
Coming up in our next half hour, we'll join WRAL's Sean Gallagher live in Raleigh. He's talking with voters about their expectations, and we'll have a live report from him at 12:30.
Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump made more personal attacks on his opponent. Trump held a news conference in Bedminster, New Jersey yesterday. Groceries surrounded him as he was expected to discuss the high cost of goods. He was also set to talk about his plan to lower prices. However, he veered into insults against the advice of members of his own party.
To personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I don't have a lot of respect for her intelligence. And I think she'll be a terrible president. Some people say, oh, why don't you be nice? But they're not nice to me. They want to put me in prison.
Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, is now set to square off against Tim Walz on October 1st, a little more than a month before the election.
WRAL has obtained video showing the moments after a convicted murderer was taken into custody this morning. You see Ramon Alston right there. The intense 72-hour manhunt for him came to an end today at a hotel near Charlotte. WRAL's Heidi Kirk is live at the State Emergency Operations Center right now, where a joint news conference will take place in less than an hour. Heidi.
Renee, you got that right. In just about an hour, we are going to have a chance to ask officials what led up to the capture of Ramon Alston that happened just this morning. Now, as you'll remember, more than 300 investigators from 19 different law enforcement agencies across our state were working on this to bring him back. Now, I want you to take a look at your screen. You're going to see video from Kannapolis at the Microtel where Alston was captured shortly before 2 a.m. Now, this is more than 2 hours away from where he escaped in Hillsborough. We learned this morning another woman was arrested in Alamance County for helping him. Her name is Jacobia Christ, and one of the things that we're going to be asking officials is how she aided and abetted him. Now, WRAL spoke this morning with an employee at the hotel while Alston stayed Wednesday into Thursday. She describes the moment officials arrived to arrest him.
Nobody knew, who he was or what he had done. And there's times that we do have photos up of people back here that are wanted, but we didn't have anything, so we all did not know who he was. So that's quite scary, to know what he's capable of and knowing that we're interacting with someone like this. But he didn't give any, red flags to, any of us.
Now, officials tell us that Alston has been taken to state prison and a high security unit where he will face additional charges for escaping. Of course, just in about an hour, we're going to have continued coverage and updates on what officials have to say about what led up to his capture. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
A cold front on the way brings weekend storms, plus dangerous rip currents are likely at our beaches from Hurricane Ernesto. Meteorologist Amy Wilmoth is here right now to help you plan your weekend. People may want to think twice before headed to the beach.
I know it's tough because the weather's going to be so nice at the beach, especially Saturday, but the waters are going to be dangerous. There's a look at where Ernesto is right now, just south of Bermuda. More on that in just a moment. This is the cold front that's headed our way, and it arrives Sunday. Ahead of that Saturday, we could have a few spotty storms. We're going with a 30% chance for some hit and miss storms Saturday. Sunday, we expect more widespread storms, a 60% chance of storms during the afternoon and evening hours. And Sunday, we have a level 1 risk for severe storms for everybody. The biggest threat will be some damaging winds and some locally heavy rain. And coming up in just a little bit, I'll talk about how much rain we could get. This is the latest advisory on Hurricane Ernesto. It's about 250 miles southwest of Bermuda. It's a Category 2 hurricane. It's expected to weaken to a Category 1 later on today, and then it moves over Bermuda as we head into the day tomorrow. They are going to get battered with heavy rain and very strong winds. For us, our concern is our beaches along the North Carolina coast down into South Carolina. Already a high rip current risk for today, and that will continue Saturday, and that will continue Sunday. People are urged to just not get in the water if you're headed to the beach. You're just going to want to do some beach combing and things like that. It is just going to be too dangerous to get in the water. Now, coming up at 12:15, I'll have hour-by-hour rain chances for both Saturday and Sunday to help you plan your weekend. And that cold front brings a little taste of fall. I'll show you when temperatures will feel like fall with highs well below normal coming up.
Amy, thanks. 2 local basketball legends are teaming up once again to help students get ready for back to school. Tomorrow, North Carolina Central basketball coach Lavelle Moten and PJ Tucker with the LA Clippers will host their back to school community day. It's the 15th year for this event. Students can get free school supplies, free book bags, free food, and free haircuts. It's happening tomorrow at the Raleigh Boys Club on North Raleigh Boulevard. Stop by anytime between 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. UNC's Lee Roberts performed his first official acts as chancellor today. Roberts helped welcome students as they moved into Carmichael Residence Hall this morning. Last week, the Board of Governors unanimously voted Roberts as chancellor after he served 8 months as the interim. UNC's first day of class will be Monday.
Several groups are calling on lawmakers and school boards to make major changes to student suspension rules. The Freedom Hill Coalition launched its Represent Us campaign yesterday. Black students, lower income students, and students with disabilities are suspended more often than anyone else, according to data, and they want to change that. The coalition wants to give students the right to appeal short-term suspensions, and they also want to get rid of suspensions and expulsions for students younger than 4th grade. Next at noon, the reduction of prices on 10 prescription drugs announced this week could be the start of more. Hear what's next for the Biden administration's plan to make medication more affordable for people on Medicare.
Plus, Hurricane Ernesto is forecast to hit Bermuda as a Cat 2 storm. We'll show you the preparations underway to protect the people living on the island.
Plus, new rules for the path to home ownership. We are going to explain what goes into effect starting tomorrow and how that could affect how and how much you buy a house.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, we're following some breaking news. A Missouri woman was arrested today on federal charges in connection to extort Elvis Presley's family out of millions of dollars and steal ownership interest of Graceland. We have a picture of the woman. This is her. Her name is Lisa Findley. She was charged with mail fraud and aggravated identity theft. She will make her initial court appearance today. In the plot, she allegedly falsely claimed that Presley's daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, had pledged Graceland as a collateral for a loan that she failed to repay before her death. She created false documents and sought to extort a settlement from the Presley family. Again, she is due to make her first initial court appearance later today. Today is actually the day that Elvis died back in 1977.
Newly announced price drops on 10 Medicare drugs could be just the start of more affordable prescriptions. The Biden administration says Medicare now has the power to negotiate such prices, not just this year, but in the years to come. Amy Kiley reports on what that could mean for your health and your money.
We then took those 10 drugs, did negotiations, dropped the price.
10 Medicare prescription drug prices are set to come down in 2026, and dozens more could eventually follow.
These were drugs that Congress essentially gave us the direction on how to select them. They're the 10 most expensive drugs in the Medicare program.
They cover conditions like diabetes, heart failure, and cancer. The Biden administration says the new prices will save the federal government $6 billion and save seniors $1.5 billion. Those figures don't factor in some existing rebates and discounts, so the final numbers could be lower. Drug companies are suing over the negotiations, and pundits have varying opinions of them.
They say, okay, making this drug that I need less expensive, that helps me. That helps, as my family's planning our family budget.
It's like standing outside of a house on fire with a bucket that's half full.
The Inflation Reduction Act is what's empowering the negotiations. It contains a timeline that allows dozens more in the years to come. The Congressional Budget Office says negotiations could save $100 billion over a decade.
This is the first time in history we got to negotiate to lower the price of prescription medication in the Medicare program. We can do it. We'd like to do it for more.
Adding on to that, some Medicare enrollees should see relief from drug prices in a new rule starting next year that caps how much they pay every year on drugs to $2,000.
Today, Hurricane Ernesto is headed to Bermuda, and roads and airports on the island are set to close tonight. NBC's Guad Venegas gives us a look at the last-minute preparations.
Hurricane Ernesto keeps making its way towards Bermuda. In the final hours of preparation here, local officials asking residents to get all of their supplies, water, food, batteries, and charge their phones as the projected path has Ernesto coming towards the island, specifically on this side, the west part of Bermuda. That path has it coming very close. It would be bringing rain and wind. The last time Bermuda got a storm like this was 2 years ago with Fiona, which did not make a direct impact, but it got close enough to knock out the power to thousands and also cause a lot of damage on the island. The island is essentially going to shut down this afternoon. The cruise ships have left the dockyard. The last commercial flight is expected to take off later today as officials urge residents and also tourists who have gotten stuck here to make all the necessary preparations and get ready to shelter in place tonight and into tomorrow as Ernesto makes its way towards Bermuda.
And we know how this is played, right? Whenever we see a hurricane, you have to be prepared in that moment.
Yeah, and we've had a stretch of pretty nice weather, dry weather for the week, but then storms are on the way again for the weekend. Amy, it looks like Sunday will be the wettest day.
That's right. Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, Sunday night. That's our best chance for storms. But with the storms on Sunday, we also have a level 1 risk for severe storms. So we could even have some severe weather with some damaging winds in some of those storms. With Ernesto, it doesn't make a direct hit on North Carolina, but it is going to bring some very dangerous rip currents this weekend. Stay out of the water if you're headed to the beaches. Do not get in. It's just way too dangerous. And then a little taste of fall next week behind this front that moves through. Our temperatures will drop. We'll have below normal temperatures next week. This is a cold front that's headed our way. It's going to arrive on Sunday. It's also going to help to push Ernesto out to sea, which is good news for us, but still, it's still close enough that we're going to have rough surf and dangerous rip currents. I'll look at rain chances for Saturday. So these are going to be fairly spotty in nature, about a 20% chance at any point in time. The rain chance goes up to about a 30% chance after sunset. So that's going to be the best chance on Saturday, but still, even through the afternoon, a couple of spotty storms possible. Sunday, it looks like the first half of the day, the rain chances are really low. So if you have some outdoor yard work to do or something like that, you want to do that the first half of the day. By 3 p.m., we have a 50% chance for storms and then a 60% chance for the rest of the afternoon into the evening. So many of us are going to get some rain on Sunday. It's going to be a wet finish to the weekend. I'll look at how much rain we could get through the weekend. So this includes Saturday and Sunday, anywhere from about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. I don't think that's enough to cause any flooding, but with some of the heavier downpours, we could have some isolated pockets of localized flooding, but I don't think that's a huge concern for the upcoming weekend. This is a live look at North Hills. It's a pretty day today. We have some puffy clouds out there, but we don't expect any rain. Just a slim chance for a shower later on tonight. 87 the current temperature, the dew point at 65, so it still feels pretty good outside today. Now tomorrow and Sunday and into Monday, it's going to be more muggy. It will feel more tropical over the weekend and then back down to steamy on Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday, though, the dew points will drop down into the lower 60s, and so that will feel much better, and that comes with some cooler temperatures as well. Today, it feels like summertime. Partly cloudy, high temperatures close to 90, 89 in Raleigh and Durham, 90 for the high temperature in Fayetteville. So it is definitely hot today, but once we get to next week, temperatures are going to cool down into the 80s and the low 80s, and that's like end of September kind of weather. So that's going to be nice. For the rest of the day today, we'll have a mix of sun and clouds with high temperatures on the hot side and not too humid, but it's a little sticky, especially in our southern counties today. Tonight, it stays fairly warm. 70 tonight with a couple of spotty storms possible, but most of you stay dry. 90 tomorrow. We'll have some hit and miss storms, but nothing widespread. Sunday, that's the best opportunity for scattered storms the second half of the day, and that comes with a level 1 risk for everyone on Sunday. Monday, we still have a few spotty storms, and we'll still have a little bit of a southerly flow, so it's still humid on Monday with a high of 86. You're really going to enjoy the weather by the time we get to Tuesday, and that's going to continue through Thursday as well. So some nice weather coming, but a little unsettled for the weekend.
Amy, thanks. Coming up this afternoon on WRAL News at 4, a warning to parents from local doctors. Why now's the time to get your kids to the pediatrician for vaccinations and Wake County school requirements.
And at 5:30, helping your students succeed. 5 on Your Side's Keely Arthur shares a back-to-school checklist to develop good sleep, eating, and tech habits, too. You know, on-the-job stress, it can lead to physical, even emotional problems. Coming up, the serious health issues researchers say they have linked to stress.
Using social media to self-diagnose an ailment could lead to serious illness. The main reason some Americans say they rely on the internet for medical advice.
Well, this is nice. Beautiful way to look at the afternoon. We have some clear skies there as we're looking live at Lake Gaston on a pretty beautiful day here on a Friday, no less. You're watching WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or your streaming device.
Yeah, looking at that can lower your stress level because stress on the job can increase your chances of developing an irregular heartbeat or atrial fibrillation. While AFib itself is not life-threatening, if left untreated, it can lead to serious complications like heart failure. Researchers observed job strain in white-collar workers, and those who felt their efforts are not properly rewarded. Those with high job strain had an 83% higher risk of developing AFib. And those who perceived an effort-reward imbalance had a 43% higher risk. The FDA is proposing new guidelines to help Americans consume less sodium in processed foods. The agency says the proposal could cut the average daily sodium intake by about 20%. According to the FDA, a large percentage of the sodium Americans consume is in commercial, processed, packaged, and prepared foods. Eating too much sodium can raise blood pressure and increase your risk for heart disease and stroke.
If you're getting your medical advice from Google, WebMD, TikTok, maybe, you're not alone. Eben Brown shares concerns from doctors about this growing problem.
Americans have more healthcare options than ever, but overall their health is on the decline, as is life expectancy, especially among younger Americans. Dr. Mike Varshavsky, who has over 25 million followers on social media, says those apps that make him famous are also making Americans more sick.
You have a lot of misinformation thrown at young people through social media, and they actually believe that if they feel healthy, that means they don't actually need to see the doctor.
He says Gen Z and millennials simply don't know how to take care of their own health, citing data from the annual Aflac Wellness Matters survey, which also shows 77% of Americans admit they put off their medical checkups, and 2/3 of millennials say they use the ER or an urgent care clinic and not a primary care doctor.
We need to just reframe the misinformation that's been sent their way and encourage them to create a positive continuity-like relationship with their doctors.
But the survey also showed wellness is important to younger Americans, though half claim simple logistics like a lack of paid time off stops them from going to the doctor's office. Dr. Mike says the remedies are simple. Take a more holistic approach to health, get to know your doctor, and stop watching ads for health supplements online.
Folks believe that if they take one miracle supplement or one magical vitamin, that they're going to have a healthy lifestyle. Thinking about health cannot be one factor.
And that was Eben Brown reporting. The CDC says that in 2023, millennials accounted for 1/3 of all urgent care visits.
And let's give you a live look at RDU International Airport right now. Vice President Kamala Harris is headed to the Triangle within the next 20 to 30 minutes to discuss her economic policy. After the break, we'll have a live report with what supporters expect.
And there is some truth to the saying, what's old really is new again. Coming up, how the economy is spawning a new trend among younger Americans. And before we forget, here are the winning lottery numbers.
Now, breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Here's a live look at RDU International right now. Two different views. Vice President Kamala Harris expected to touch down within the next 15 minutes. It's her first visit to North Carolina since being named the Democratic nominee for president. And the topic of her speech, the economy.
Now, a recent WRAL poll shows that is the #1 priority for voters going to the ballot box this fall. WRAL Sean Gallagher is at Wake Tech. Sean, what specifically will Vice President Harris be talking about today?
Yeah, so you can see the banner here behind me says lowering your costs. This is going to be the focus of her entire speech, where she'll tackle the rising costs of homes, prescription drugs, and groceries. That includes a focus on the meat industry, which she believes is the biggest reason behind the rising receipt totals across the country. Now, this could have a large impact on you, me, really all of the citizens of the state and the businesses we buy from. North Carolina is the #1 producer of poultry and eggs in the country. And according to the Consumer Price Index, the cost of a dozen eggs jumped nearly 150% since 2019, from $1.40 to $3.50. And the cost of chicken is up nearly 28% in that same time. Harris is expected to lay out her plan to prevent price gouging and holding those businesses that do it accountable. So I went to a grocery store yesterday to ask voters how important inflation is in deciding how they'll vote this November.
Honestly, I try to catch things on sale a lot. That's about the only way I can keep up. Eat as good as I've been used to.
I love to cook, bake, so it's very hard. You used to get a lot of groceries, Now people ain't even getting carts hardly because they don't have much in it.
Now, the economy is something former President Donald Trump has attacked as a vulnerability for Harris and her campaign. Though year-over-year inflation is at a 3-year low, Wednesday in Asheville, Trump said Harris broke the economy, the border, and the world. Now, back out here live at Wake Tech, you can see people are filtering in as Vice President Harris is expected to be here in just about 2 hours, where she will deliver that speech on the economy. Of course, we'll have much more on that speech later tonight. Sean Gallagher, WRAL News, Raleigh.
And happening now in the WRAL Traffic Center, as Sean just mentioned, the Vice President will be arriving any minute now in the next few minutes. She will be arriving at RDU International in preparation for the Vice President's visit. Expect road closures and delays. Now, here's some of the roads that could be affected. We're talking I-540, Six Forks Road, Falls of Neuse Road, possibly I-40 and the Beltline. Let's take a look at those live sensors at this noon hour. You can see right now there's a huge traffic jam on westbound I-40 because of that crash. We're also seeing a crash on I-540 as a result of a crash. That's actually just a few miles from where the president will be speaking there at Wake Tech. Now, the vice president is going to be leaving a little after 4:30 this afternoon, so stay with WRAL as we let you know how her visit will affect your early evening and late afternoon commute.
The Trump campaign is now dealing with a new controversy rooted in a campaign event at his Bedminster Golf Club. GOP mega donor Miriam Adelson introduced him to the audience, which included a Holocaust survivor. And Trump presented Adelson with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. At the event intended to discuss anti-Semitism, Trump said that medal was a better award compared to the top military honor, the Medal of Honor.
We gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman.
And Trump awarded Adelson the Medal of Freedom for her donations to anti-addiction facilities and her work as a doctor. Tomorrow, Trump will be in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania for a campaign event. This will be the second time he's been back to Pennsylvania since the assassination attempt against him in Butler. Harris will also be visiting Pennsylvania this weekend. She'll be in Pittsburgh on Sunday ahead of the Democratic National Convention. That starts Monday.
The city of Durham hopes a new fund provides hope for future generations and reduces crime. Youth crime and youth victims of crime have been a major issue for Durham for years. So far this year, 22 people under the age of 18 have been shot in Durham. 3 have been children 5 years old or younger. Mayor Leonardo Williams says the new Bull City Future Fund will provide resources for organizations that serve children.
And I also realize that hunger, poverty, gun violence, crime, those things are way too accessible. But helping to build a safer, better community for our kids in which they can grow up and just enjoy life is way too inaccessible. And I need to flip that on its head.
The fund is a partnership with the United Way of the Greater Triangle and the Triangle Community Foundation.
The Carolina Theater in Durham is ready to welcome guests after a major renovation project. The theater was closed for 6 weeks for restoration, including all new seats in the auditorium. There is more seating capacity as well as luxurious grand suites on the balcony. Everything in Fletcher Hall is brand new except for decorative end panels, which received a new golden coat of paint.
We wanted to make sure that the look and feel of Fletcher Hall stayed the way that people remember it. So you'll see all the wood grain finish that you're used to. You'll see all of the fabric colors, those beautiful sort of turquoise seats that you're used to in Fletcher Hall. But it's all brand new and a lot more comfortable.
The first live event is open to the public this Sunday with rumors of Fleetwood Mac.
Inflation has made some people think twice before splurging on that new shiny toy, but we'll explain the latest trend to underconsume and be frugal.
New rules for how real estate agents are paid start tomorrow. What you need to know if you're buying or selling a home. Remember, you can watch WRAL News live anytime on WRAL.com or the WRAL app on your streaming device.
Realtors are bracing for the biggest shakeup to their business in decades. New rules go into place tomorrow that make the 6% commission sellers usually pay negotiable. Now, this is technically not a change for North Carolina. That's because broker commissions have been negotiable here for years. However, it rarely ever is. Brokers believe this nationwide rule that will be changing will lead to more North Carolina sellers asking buyers to cover their broker's commission. Buyers will also now need to sign a representation agreement with an agent before even touring a home. If you're in the market for an apartment, you might find some great deals, and that's because units are staying on the market for longer. Vacancies are rising and rental growth is slowing. Landlords are offering perks such as free parking and free weeks of rent to entice tenants to sign on the dotted line. Now, according to Zillow, more than half the rental listings in Raleigh have offered concessions over the past year.
A new movement online is gaining steam. It's called Underconsumption Core. The name is new, but the idea is not. For years, we've talked about the no-spend trend and buy-nothing groups. Now, some social media creators are casting aside the notion to buy new and embracing thrifting quirky items, saving money on makeup and clothes. Experts say it could be linked to younger Americans feeling the pinch of inflation.
Consumer spending has basically been fueling this economy for years. I mean, post-pandemic, everyone wanted to go out and travel, but now high interest rates, high prices, they've taken a toll. Maybe it's time to reassess all of that revenge spending that we've been doing.
Some large companies are offering customers more deals to lure them into the stores.
We do want to give you a live look at RDU International, courtesy of photojournalist Richard Atkins. We have learned that Air Force Two has officially landed right there at RDU. Vice President Kamala Harris is here, and she is expected to lay out her economic policy plan today, even talking about the price of groceries. We are going to have live coverage of her visit on air and online.
Plus, remembering the victims of the Springfield Race Massacre. Until now, very little was known about the events of 1908. The importance of the proclamation when we return.
Happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, a Zebulon man and woman were both arrested after abusing their 4-month-old baby. These are their pictures here. Christopher Chambers and Taya Brown were arrested in Wake County. They're charged with intentional child abuse with serious injury. Chambers and Brown intentionally inflicted serious bodily injury, causing 10 rib fractures and a subdural hematoma on their 4-month-old. They are the parents of that child. They were both given a $500,000 bond.
Goodness, a 4-month-old. At least 10 service members are being treated for injuries after a hard landing during a training event. This happened around 9:15 last night at Fallon Naval Air Station in Reno, Nevada. The victims were transported to a hospital by Black Hawk helicopters, but no word on what caused the pilot to make a hard landing. And shortly before our newscast, President Biden signed a proclamation designating a new national monument for civil rights. This one marks the 1908 race massacre in Springfield, Illinois. For 2 nights, a white mob looted, burned, and destroyed Black-owned homes and businesses. The lynching deaths of 2 Black men during the riot led to a movement that gave birth to the NAACP. Now, ironically, Springfield, Illinois is once again at the center of calls for racial justice following the deadly shooting of Sonia Massey.
Let's take you back to RDU International Airport, where just minutes ago, Vice President Harris landed at RDU. Harris is expected to talk about the rising costs of groceries and housing on this campaign visit. Her first time back in North Carolina since heading up the Democratic presidential ticket. There you see Air Force Two taxing. We've learned from our WRAL News poll that the economy is the #1 issue for voters in North Carolina. And Harris plans on talking about her plan to improve the economy, including new middle-class tax breaks and bringing back the child tax credit. So she'll be going to a location north Raleigh. You can expect some travel delays when her motorcade travels. 540, Six Forks Road, Falls of Neuse roads will likely be impacted. And look for live reports from Sean Gallagher, who will be covering her campaign stop in our later newscasts. A field trip to the wild side. High school students from across the country are getting a rare opportunity to visit some of the most remote parts of America. Brad Hicks shows us why they're setting up camp where cell phones have no signal.
The rangeland south of Rawlins, Wyoming.
Hey guys, I want you all within earshot of me, okay?
Is a long way from
New Hampshire, Tennessee, North Carolina,
Georgia,
Nevada, New Jersey, Wisconsin.
10 high school students are here on a Trout Unlimited expedition.
We've got sleeping pads and sleeping bags for everybody.
It's the first season for the Conservation Group's new expedition program, a unique opportunity for high school and college kids to help create clean water across the West.
They're so excited to be able to have an impact on this place.
After setting up camp, it's time to get to work.
Should be fun, get wet.
Trout Unlimited repairs rivers so they can become better habitats for fish. Here, they're building replica beaver dams to improve water quality and retention on Muddy Creek.
Muddy Creek is right on the Continental Divide, and it's, the far eastern edge of the Colorado River Basin.
The project is part of a 5-year federal grant to improve drought resiliency and create stronger ecosystems across several western states.
You can do all the work in the world, but without having the next generation to take care of it, it's kind of pointless.
So they started the expedition program.
This is awesome. This is the first time I've gotten to do something like this.
And judging from the first season, the future is in good, muddy hands.
I think for me, it's the idea of keep making something viable for more than just our generation.
It pains me to see that some parts of nature are, facing trouble right now. So I want to do the most I can to help it out.
You're kind of giving back in a world where we've taken so much.
Applications for next summer's Trout Unlimited expeditions will be available in the spring.
You guys did great. Yay!
Brad Hicks reporting.
Seeing that gives me so much hope because you have these young people who are not just helping, but they understand the effect of going out there and trying to fix our waterways.
And you did catch that among the 10 students there. One of them is from North Carolina, so way to represent. Meteorologist Amy Wilmoth in the WRAL Severe Weather Center tracking the changes that are coming for this weekend weather-wise.
It's back to a tropical feel and it's back to storm chances as well. And that's because of this cold front. It arrives on Sunday. In advance of that, we'll have this southerly flow. We already have that today. So the humidity will gradually increase, the moisture increases, and then our rain chances go up, especially on Sunday. I can't rule out a stray shower this evening. It's mainly in our northwestern counties. We'd see a spotty shower, but most of you are going to stay dry through the evening. Just a slim chance for rain overnight tonight. And then Saturday at lunchtime, a spotty shower or two, but nothing really widespread tomorrow. We only have a 30% chance for a shower or storm tomorrow. So if you have outdoor plans, I think it's fine to keep those. But just keep in mind you might see an isolated shower or storm through the day on Saturday. Sunday, we'll wake up to partly cloudy skies, and then as we get into the second half of the day, that's when storms start to fire up. That's when the cold front starts to approach the area. So around 4 o'clock or so is when storms will start to develop on Sunday, and they'll continue through the evening and into the early nighttime hours as well. Here's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock Sunday evening, and we even have the chance for a few storms lingering into Monday as well. So things kind of changing over the weekend. Also, we're tracking Hurricane Ernesto, Category 2 hurricane, goes over Bermuda through the day on Saturday. That's when they're going to have some pretty big impacts. It'll be a Category 1 hurricane at that point. And it's close enough to the North Carolina coast that we're going to have dangerous rip currents today through Sunday. So if you have a beach trip planned for the weekend, just don't get in the water. It is going to be way too dangerous to do that. A live look at some of our cameras in Wake County. Apex, you have sunshine. We also have sunny skies over the gardens here at WRAL and mostly sunny skies over downtown Raleigh as well. Temperatures are in the 80s, so it's pretty warm. It's 87 in Raleigh. The normal high is 89, and so we're going to be very close to that today. Dew points are in the 50s and 60s, so it's not super humid outside right now, but we're going to start to notice it feel a bit more muggy as we head into the next couple of days. So high temperatures in the upper 80s to near 90 today, definitely feeling like summer. If you're headed out on the water this evening, the weather looks pretty good. Just a 20% chance for rain. Temperatures will be in the 80s through 8 p.m. and then 78 by 9 p.m. Overall, the weekend is a bit unsettled. It's more muggy. We'll be dodging storms, especially Sunday. We also have a level 1 risk Sunday, a few storms Monday, and then turning nice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week.
All right, thanks, Amy. A 102-year-old woman is crossing a lifelong dream off her bucket list. The exciting moment this baseball fan had at the Brewers game last night. That's coming up.
As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today.
WRAL has obtained video that is showing the moments after a convicted murderer was taken into custody this morning. The intense 72-hour manhunt for Ramon Alston came to an end today at a hotel not far from Charlotte. Investigators tell us Alston is being taken to a high-security unit in the state prison system. And as we're looking right now, this is Vice President Kamala Harris getting off Air Force Two right now. She is coming to the Triangle to speak about the economy during her visit.
Yeah, this is her first appearance in North Carolina since she became the Democratic nominee. You see quite a crowd there gathered to greet the vice president. She is expected